So, my first question is to you guys, what is your key information to highlight? So we know they raised money, but let's talk about that. We know they raised money, right? But does that give us any specific information for us to use? So then we will actually want to go to the second sentence and get more specific about that raising of money. So specifically, what happened? Okay, so it's first donated a total of $50,000. And what else is key? 10,000 votes. Another key thing there is the word for. So donated a total of $50,000 for $10,000 votes. And then we can talk about getting the answer to the question in a little bit. But we want to always break down and understand what the story is saying. Okay? Is there an end to this story? What's the end? What does the 50,000 represent? What is the end of the story? The total what? Total donation. So since this has an end, it's going to be represented by an equation. Okay? Go ahead and add this. One event story is the same thing as a one-step equation. So if you remember one-step equations from last year, all it means is it has one event that happened. In this story, there's a donation. Boom, one event. All right? Say there was a donation and then somebody robbed some of the money. How many events is that? Two. So that would be a two-step equation. All right? So, and that's where multi-step just means multiple events. One step means one event. Two steps is two events, so on and so forth. Okay? So the next thing you need to do after you mark the text is rewind the story. So go ahead and write rewind story, and then we're going to do that part together. So beneath that, write rewind story. Can you guys see that green? All right. So the way you rewind the story, it goes from finish, the end, to the start. Just like when I showed you with the envelope, I gave you the end of the story, right? The $30. And then you were was able to go back to the beginning. So what is the end of this story? And this is going to be a paragraph that you actually write for this section. What is the end of this story? All right. So there was a total donation of how much? $50,000. All right. What else was going on in the story? Or how did they get a total donation of $50,000? That was because of what? I can't just write 10,000 votes though, because that's not a complete sentence. Okay. So the total donation was a result of what? Result of the what? So the total donation was a result of the 10,000 votes. Okay. So how does that work though? What's happening? Why was there a total donation because of votes? Like what happened? Okay. let's take that question to the class. Who donated? Was it the people voting or someone else? American Idol did what? Made the donations, right? So the total donation was a result of the 10,000 votes, and American Idol did what? So they gave money for what? Say again? Okay, but we actually, to really figure out the answer, it could be any charity up there. Right now I'm asking, what did they give money for? That was the overall goal, but it wasn't like, there's cancer, boom, I'm giving money. Something had to happen in order for them to give money, right? They gave money for what specifically? That's the overall purpose, but yeah, they gave money for each vote. So then, go ahead and use your mind, and you can try to work it out somehow. Gave money for each vote. Let's go back to the beginning. So they paid how much for each vote? Gilberto, what did you guys say? You guys agree or disagree? Agree? So they say that they were, and don't write this down because we got to check it. They're saying that it was $5 for each vote if they work backwards. How can we check to see if that's right? Okay, I can divide or I can multiply. So let's work forwards here. And when you guys are working on this, feel free to use the calculator. I have those available. But let's see if this works out. Alright. It's $5 for how many votes? Or sorry, for each vote. And how many total votes? 10,000. So it's 5 times 10,000. How much money is that? 50,000. So does $5 a vote work? So let's write our beginning, now that we know the beginning. And again, I'm training your mind to just think of this as common sense as opposed to getting wrapped up in the algebra. So they paid $5 for each vote. And then our math, let's just throw that in there. Our math was $5 times 10,000 votes, right? And how much is that? 50,000. So this section, I am looking for the paragraph, but whatever math you do use in your head, feel free to throw that in there. So again, I started from the end, 50,000. I know there's 10,000 votes, and then I go back to the beginning, so they must have paid $5 for each vote. So that'll be the second thing that you do on the project. But you guys are going to have different stories. Everyone have that written down? Alright. So again, your mind is going from story to algebra. So now this next part, go ahead and write story into algebra. And it takes activities like this for me actually to rewire your brain. Like to force you to think a different way. And when you guys see that Common Core test, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And hopefully you guys are more prepared than the other algebra students. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but I'm recording this lesson. Ignore that, internet. I'm putting the lesson on YouTube so that people can get it, but I just said something. Alright, story in algebra. Alright. I guess I can. Alright, so story into algebra, but I'm too lazy, and I'll just put it on there and you guys have a good laugh. Alright, So let's take the story and turn it into algebra. But we always start with the phrases first, no numbers. So who can just tell us what is this story from beginning to end? Just break it down for us. Simple phrases. What happened? So for this one is just phrases. So they gave a what? A donation. And they gave a donation for, don't say cancer, they gave a donation for what? For each vote. So for each vote. Does everybody agree that if I had to sum up the story, that's what happened? Alright, does it have a total? Alright, so since it has an ending, you got to put an equal sign to give the ending. So the donations for each vote resulted in what? No numbers. That 50,000 represents your the total donation. And that's what you guys will have to practice, those phrases. But once you do that, it actually becomes really simple. Yes. Do we know from the beginning how much it is do we know how much they're donating for each vote? Yes. No. So we have to use a variable. Alright? For each vote, is that adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Multiplying. Okay? Which is what we did there, 5 times 10,000. Do we know how many votes there were? 10,000. Yeah. It's my class, girl. The total donation is how much? 50,000. So whatever we know, we use the number. What we don't know is a variable. So for the story in the algebra, what you do is you give it to us in phrases, and then the equation. So go ahead and write that little note there. Give me the phrase in words, and then equation. The phrase is just like summing this up. Notice I just took the key information. Donation, each vote, total. Questions on that piece? Alright, moving right along. The last section is what you guys are familiar with, which is usually what teachers start off with first. But I go completely backwards. Okay? Which is why I say I'm rewiring your brain. Alright. So go ahead and write properties of equality. But it's actually what you do every single day. When some new technology comes out, it rewires your brain. Right? The more technology you guys have, the more impatient you guys become. Right? Man, it's taking like 10 seconds to download. Right? It used to take, when I downloaded things at your age, I would click download and then come back like 3 hours later and it's like 68%. Like you start downloading in the morning and then it's done in the afternoon. And that was like, oh man, that was quick. It only took like a couple hours. You guys are like, man, it's been 2 seconds already. Where's my video at? What's the lag? What's that lag right there? You're like, my lag was 2 hours. So your brain is constantly rewired by a bunch of different things.
Yeah, but it's true.
Yes. And mine got rewired as well. I also get very impatient. If my internet speed is not fast, I'm like, oh my goodness, man. Hey, we got to get new internet. It's too slow. Alright? It took a whole 5 seconds. So yeah, we're constantly rewiring our brain. So I'm not going to damage you. Yeah. Alright, so properties of equality is what you're used to. So go ahead and rewrite the equation. So donations for each, so multiply by 10,000 votes equals 50,000 dollars. And my whole idea is that when you start writing this, your mind immediately always associates it back to the story. And if you start looking at the numbers and relating it back to the story, you know that your brain has been properly rewired. Because before, all you did was, that's a number, that's a letter. No meaning whatsoever. Now we're trying to add meaning to it. I know I'm a rapper. Alright. Properties of equality is what you did in your Know It notebook to prepare you for this. Right? Does anybody know what properties of equality, or how do you use that, or what does it mean?
Students and staff, excuse the interruption, all classified hourly staff, all
It has something to do with equal. Good job, because it has equal in it. What is the addition property of equality? What does that mean? No.
Oh, that both sides balance each other out.
So yeah, both sides balance each other out, and then Steve said whatever I add, so addition property of equality means this. If me and Steven have the same amount of money, if I get $10, how do we keep the balance? He also has to get what? $10, and then we're balanced again. So whatever I add to my wallet, if we're going to say equal, I have to add the same amount to his wallet. If I subtract from my wallet to say equal, what do I have to do to his wallet? Subtract from it. Okay? That is why you do the same thing to both sides. So the last part is you exercising the properties of equality. What is the opposite of multiplying by 10,000? So this is what you're familiar with, Jenny. So you're familiar with dividing on both sides. And if I want to just find out how much one donation costs, what would I have to divide this 10,000 by? If I divide 10,000 by 50,000, will that get me 1? No. What do I need to divide 10,000 by to get down to 1 vote? 10,000. I have to divide by the exact same thing. That's why you use that number, because you're trying to find out how much one donation is. And if I divide 10,000 on this side, the properties of equality says I also have to divide 10,000 on the other. What's 10,000 divided by 10,000? So I have 1 vote, or 1 donation, right? Equals, what's 50,000 divided by 10,000? 5. And then what's D times 1? Alright, so the donation is equal to 5 what? 5 Twinkies? Yeah. Is it 5 votes or $5? $5. It's $5 for each vote. So for these, always put the meaning back into it. Okay? If I'm hiring you, I don't care if the answer is 5. I need to know what that 5 means. Is that $5 a person? Do we need to fire 5 people? Do I need to take out 5 millimeters of medicine? Okay? So let me explain to you what your homework is, and then what you'll be doing Thursday and Friday. So your homework, so first of all, you're supposed to chunk your notes. So this is the first chunk. So go ahead and chunk your notes. The second chunk will start with what? What word? Rewind. Third chunk, story into algebra. Fourth, properties of equality. And so what you'll do, you'll tell us the process. For chunk number 1, what do you have to do? No, what did we do for this first chunk? Okay, so we call that identify what? Key terms using what strategy? No, but it's called something. 3 words. I say it all the time. What is it? Marking and text. And so for your homework, you have to finish the rest of it. Like, what do you do for section 2? What did we do for this one? We rewrote the story backwards. Alright? So just finish that section for homework, and then your assignment will be left with the sub. It's going to have you guys practice 1-step and 2-step equations so that you can get that out of the way so that next week you're not being held back. Peace out. Those guys making up the test, you better come today. Or some other day. Something. I was going to do it today, but I ran out of time. Let me stop recording.